Hi there, booktube. The other day in my Friday Reads video I said that I didn't really want to be inundating you with too many videos, but then I noticed what time of year it was and saw that it was time to do the Mid Year Freakout Tag, and so here I am going against my own word doing the Mid Year Freakout Tag, and this is a bit of an experiment I'm trying to film out here in the garden. So hopefully the noise of the traffic on the road just over there isn't too loud. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, let's just see how it goes. So the first question, the first prompt is the best book you've read so far this year. And although I've got a massive pile of books with me, I can't show you this one because I've lent it to somebody. Yeah, the best book I've read this year is The Frayed Atlantic Edge by David Gange. I think I brought this up in my first video, so I'll link that underneath, just so you can hear me talk about it, and I can, so you can see the cover. But it's essentially a historian, and he's taking a kayak trip, and he's exploring the entire western edge of the British Isles and also the west coast of Ireland, and it's really fascinating, and he kind of goes into the history and literature of those places, but also really gets a feeling and a connection with the past and present communities in those places, and it's just a fascinating, beautiful book. It was one of the first books I read this year, so it was a really good start, and so far there's been nothing that's quite blown it out of the water for me in terms of reading experience. Then the next three prompts, none of which I have answers for, but they go the best sequel you've read so far. Sorry, read 0 sequels. New release you haven't read but want to. Again, I don't really keep track of new releases, so sorry, I don't have an answer for that. And then fourth as well, most anticipated release of the second half of the year. Same as the last question, I'm not really keeping my eye out for new releases. I just see books, new and old, and when they cross paths with me, I pick them up and read them. That's basically my approach. Sorry, I can't really answer those ones. But then, biggest disappointment of the year, number 5, and for me so far, that's been The Hearing Trumpet by Leonora, Carrington. It seems like nearly every video I bring up how just disappointed I was with this book. I love a bit of surrealism, and the idea of this book really appealed to me, but I just didn't get on with her writing style at all and just found it a bit silly, unfortunately, and I was really grumpy when I found out, or when as I was reading it and discovered it wasn't the book I'd hoped it to be. Yeah, that's been my biggest, not only my biggest disappointment this year, but probably one of the biggest reading disappointments ever for me, because I've been thinking and looking forward to this book so much. So yeah, that's the biggest disappointment. The biggest surprise, probably it was Nostromo by Joseph Conrad. Just because I didn't really know what it was going to be about, in a way. From the synopsis on the back, it tells you the setting and some of the themes, but it doesn't really give you an idea of what's going to happen, and even after reading about 100 pages, you're still not really sure completely what this book is about. There's still a lot of story that needs to happen, but with every sort of section you work through, it's kind of split in 3, and once you're in that 3rd section, suddenly everything starts coming together, and it just gets better and better by every single page for me, when you get in that 3rd section of the book, and yeah, it was actually really, really good. And so yeah, I was just getting more and more surprised with how good it was the further I got into it. It was really fun. So yeah, that's Nostromo by Joseph Conrad. And then favourite new author. And I think for me it's Ismail Kadare, and this is the book of his I read earlier this year, The Traitor's Niche, about a courier whose job it is. He transports the decapitated heads from sort of the borders of the empire where there are rebellions going on, and takes them back to the capital to be displayed in a niche so the public know not to mess with the empire. And it's not necessarily historically accurate. It is inspired by the historical events of a rebellion in Albania, I think some point in the 1800s, around the time Byron was alive. Byron gets name dropped at a few points, but it's so fantastical, and it's kind of part of an Ottoman Empire trilogy. So there's one called The Palace of Dreams and another called Three Arched Bridge, which kind of it's just a bit more from this world that he's building, this kind of fantastical, surreal version of the Ottoman Empire. So yeah, that's Ismail Kadare, and hopefully I'll be able to read more of his books soon. I've actually got the rabbits running around here, and you can't see it on the camera, but Leif, one of my rabbits, is just sniffing my feet, which is quite nice. And then, again, the next two I don't have answers for. So number 8 is newest fictional crush. Don't really have one, sorry. And newest favourite character. Again, I don't really have one, I'm afraid. But then question 10 is a book that made you cry this year. And I don't really cry when I read a book, but these two books got me close. There was The Diary of Anne Frank. Particularly as I was reading the epilogue, I was on the verge, and again, certain sections in The Hare with Amber Eyes had me on the edge as well. I don't always cry, but I got close with those two. Oh, I dropped my list. And then number 11, a book that made you happy, and for that, that's the book I'm reading at the moment. It's Italo Calvino's Cosmocomics, the complete Cosmocomics. I'm actually only 2 stories into this, so I've got a lot to go. But I just read the other night the first 2, and I suppose particularly the first one is called The Distance of the Moon, and it's just so weird and fun, and it kind of reminds me of Edward Lear or Lewis Carroll. It's just so nonsensical and fun. So yeah, that's a book that made me happy only last night. And then number 12, the most beautiful book you've bought this year, and I was tempted to show the Sherlock Holmes book that I hauled earlier this year, but I think another book just slightly nudges up into first place. And that's this. This is The Wanderer by Peter van den Ende, and this is I suppose like a graphic novel or like a picture book for grown-ups about this little paper boat that's trying to get home over the sea. And the illustrations are just so beautiful. You know, it's beautiful inside and out. Just look at that. I just love it, and it is, you know, just a book that every now and then I will just sit and leaf through, and it's just a lovely way to spend half an hour every now and then, and yeah, glad to have it on my bookcase. So there we go. Then the last prompt in the tag is what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And as you can see, there's quite a big stack of books there, so I'll just go through them. Normally around the beginning of every year, around New Year, it's not necessarily a strict TBR, but I just make a sort of checklist of certain books that I want to get to and I don't always get to them. Books often spill over because I get distracted with other books that cross my path. But it's just a nice way to keep track. And so these are some of the books, or I think most of the books that are on there. I think the only books that I don't have here are books that I'm currently reading, like Red Comet, the Sylvia Plath biography by Heather Clark. Yeah, I'll just go through these. So we have The Idiot by Dostoevsky. We have The Castle by Franz Kafka. Whoops. We have Kid by Simon Armitage. Some more poetry. We have, speaking of Herbert, Selected Poems. Yeah, a poet that I've been impressed by in the past and want to get to know much better. And then a sort of more classic poet that I want to know a bit better is Auden. So this is a slim selection of some of his works. Then this is a short story, sort of fancy short story collection called St. Lucy's Home for Girls Raised by Wolves. And this has been in a library. I'm not sure if you can see, it's got the little plastic dust jacket thing. But I bought this, well actually my wife bought this over a year ago, and we were thinking of giving it away to someone, but then we thought, oh, might read it first. So I'm going to try and read it this year so we can get it along to give away. And then we have Civilization. Who's this by? By Neil Ferguson. So this is just about sort of Western civilization and how the West has come to be what it is. Yeah, I just saw this in the charity shop and thought it'd be interesting. This is one that spilled over from last year. This is The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and I really love Huckleberry Finn, and so I've always wanted to read Tom Sawyer, so I'm going to try and read it this year. Hopefully, at some point over the summer. I think it'll be a good little summer read, and this can just go in my pocket, and I can take it with me wherever I go. And this is one I've kind of started, but want to read just for my own interest. It's How to Write a Thesis by Umberto Eco. Yeah, one day I need to read some of his fiction too, but this is just a little sort of handbook he wrote. This one, I don't know if I'll finish this year. This is Robert Graves' complete poems, and I wasn't really getting on with a lot of them. Every now and then there's a good one, but yeah, I've not really been getting on with Robert Graves so far. And then some more sort of poetry adjacent stuff. This is John Hollander, Rhymes Reason, sort of poetry handbook that I've dipped in and out of for years, and just thought I'd just go through it all in one go at some point this year. Then some more poetry. We have the complete poems of W.S. Graham. I read his selected poems last year, which was maybe about, I don't know, about a fifth the size of this, and was so impressed that I decided to buy his collected poems so that it's more or less everything that he ever wrote. And then there's Death in the Family by Knausgaard, the first in his My Struggle series. Yeah, I really want to try and read this at some point, maybe this summer, I don't know. And then we have Slouching Towards Bethlehem by Joan Didion, which has been sitting around far too long, and it shouldn't take me too long to read this, I don't think. Then we have East of Eden by John Steinbeck, which again has been sat on my shelf. It's probably been like 3 years it's been sat on my shelf, which it's fine with me really, but I do really want to read it this year. And then finally we have selected poems and translations by Ezra Pound. And I've kind of dipped in and out of some of Ezra Pound's works in the past. I quite enjoy some of the early cantos, Yeah, I don't know it's worked terribly well. Although I did read a brief sort of biography about his life last year. Yeah, I just thought I'd get to know more of his poetry a little better. So there we go. That's my mid-year freakout tag. We'll see how I do, I guess, at the end of the year. Yeah, please let me know what you thought. Let me know maybe how you're doing with your reading this year, and I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. And yeah, if you're doing videos and if you do a mid-year freakout tag, I look forward to seeing that too. For now, that's all. I might try and get some footage of the rabbits running around here in the garden for you, yeah, that's everything. So take care. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.